So, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I will start my presentation. Uh, my presentation is on Elizabethan era uh, in the history of English literature. Uh, Elizabethan era was a very positive time for the uh, uh, the Britishers actually, and it was a time of reformation. It was a time when the uh, the British culture and traditions were uh, the British rose up, and they had some of the greatest writers and novelists, dramatists, and playwright. Uh, it was this great era when William Shakespeare was born, Edmund Spenser was born, and they had a queen who tried to accommodate everybody. Uh, I will start by my first point. There was a time of turmoil when Queen Elizabeth came to power. She uh, gave everybody liberty of practicing their own religion. Puritans were practiced freely, and others also. So this Elizabethan era was, I don't know, it looks like that uh, God was very was wanted them to rise up and achieve greatness. First point that I would discuss is the short turmoil and reformation of. I've explained this point. There was abundance of non-dramatic poets. There was the Elizabethan era was rich and lavish in respect of literature. When we say that, when we observe uh, Elizabethan era was an era in which a lot of uh, a lot of good writers were born. Uh, I would again mention Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, uh, Sir Philip Sidney, uh, Francis Bacon, and you name it. In Milton's word, and he said that we suddenly see England, noble and puissant nation, rousing herself like a strong man after sleep, shaking her invisible locks with the Queen character, a strange mingling of frivolity and strength. So these were the words that Milton spoke about her queen, and he compared her with a robust and a gigantic sort of male who is just playing with his locks, the invincible locks, as he said it. Actually, he tried to add more glory to the respected queen, so that the queen so that he can encourage, so that he can say uh, good words about the queen, so that uh, the, so that his country should uh, uh, emerge from their problems, and the queen uh, should be able to contain the situation that was very dangerous. There were rebellions, there were everything, because uh, the previous era was the dark ages, as they call it. And it was the dark ages because no good writer or novelist or dramatist ever came. And now the Elizabethan era is the Enlightenment era, because a lot of writers were born and a lot of literature was produced. So I would switch on to the next slide. It is the analysis of the period. The Spanish Portuguese discovered the New World meant that England was no longer at the end of Europe, but its leading edge. New confidence brought about was clear in Philip Sidney's defense of poesy. Achievement of Spenser, Marlowe, and Shakespeare followed. English history cherishes the poetry of Thomas Yatt, Henry Howard, and Earl of Surrey. And now I will discuss all these people, Philip Sidney and Christopher Marlowe and Spenser and Shakespeare. So it's not what I want to tell in these slides. I want to convey that uh, some of the greatest writers uh, were born, and as a result, one of the greatest literature was produced in this era. English history cherishes the poetry of Thomas Yatt, Henry Howard, and Earl of Surrey. Next slide. Achievement of 62 years between Utopia and 1579 would include the refoundation of human schools. Now, things were getting better after uh, they would. Now, utopia is a situation, an ideal situation, and that can't be achieved in any way. But they started to heal. The England started to heal because there were more poets. I would again say they were poets again, and a lot of literature was produced, and due to that there were more schools, and people were being educated. There was development of English. The prospectus of English poetry was uh, was at its pinnacle. Establishment of its meter and writing of black verse, some fine lyrics and songs. Uh, uh, we had the greatest of lyrics in this era. Uh, Next slide. The Reformation had begun in 1570 with Martin Luther King's attacks on church and penitential system. Now, this is a fact, and this is part of history, because, and I can't explain this one. It's just a piece of information for me. Uh, then we have to discuss Sir Thomas More. This He was a lawyer, but he wrote a book uh, in which uh, he discussed and then he discussed Platonist aristocrat, because he was in fact the Platonist aristocrat who drew from court and cloister to study. Actually, he left the legal profession, and he started to study different things. Rhetoric and art of public speaking was newly emerging, and he was actually doing research on that, most probably. Now I would discuss about the courtier. Uh, this courtier was Thomas Yatt, a diplomat in France, and he was a diplomat, and he used to move around different places, mainly France and Spain. He wrote Sonnet of Patriarch. His pride can be scented elsewhere in his verse. His work was so open, so self-explanatory, that he his aroma of his verses came from his books and his written works. Uh, Now I would like to discuss a little about prose writing, because prose writing was also present in this era. Prose is merely a written language. Its qualities are not well indicated in brief. Actually, you can't discuss it in briefly. We also we are also as MA students, we are also waiting that when are we going to study syntax and other courses. But and how we can make good prose. It is a part of discussion uh, for us also. Uh, verse, the verses of that, the verses of Thomas Yatt uh, danced on meter and take on rhyme and other patternings. Prose works with no rule other than those of syntax. Now, syntax is also a methodology that we have to study, but syntax actually means all the rules of making sentences, construction of sentences, and there was work on that field also in this era. Now we would discuss some of the writers of the Elizabethan era. One was Christopher Marlowe, William Shakespeare, Edmund Spenser, Sir Philip Sidney, Sir Walter Raleigh, Ben Jonson. So first of all, I would discuss about Philip Sidney. Philip Sidney was mainly busy in the non-dramatic poetry. Sidney's death and legend obscured his writing. Sidney also led to a group which sought to classicize English. Actually, he was making the classic English that we have today. We study with a lot of pleasure while we read those difficult vocabularies, idioms, phrases. All that was done in the Elizabethan era by Sir Philip Sidney and others. Being the son of a governor, he was an ambitious person of which writing was a part. This person belonged to a good family, but usually when you have money, you get astray. But this fellow was an ambitious person, and he loved writing. That's why uh, he was so ambitious about writing. The defense is elaborate, patterned in classical oration and full of humanistic learning. He learned the classical oration uh, because he found pleasure in it. His moral idealism is attractive if simple version of role model of history can be considered. Edmund Spenser was a scholarship boy at Cambridge. Actually, Edmund Spenser was studied at the great Cambridge University, the same Cambridge University that has more than 700 years of experience now. But this university, uh, I don't know what was the repute at that time of Cambridge University, but he was a very intelligent person. He won the scholarship and he studied at this great university. They are there are translated sonnets of his. He wrote Shepherd's Calendar and Fairy Queen are both of best of his works. Uh, Spenser dedicated its heroic romance to his queen. Actually, Fairy Queen uh, was based on uh, 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 it has concepts of courtly love. It was not just a romantic story between a beloved and his lover. It was something more than that. It had the concepts of chivalry, it had the concepts of courtly love, and actually, courtly love is something more than the traditional love that we fall in. It is the love of your country. It's the love for uh, your head of the state. And why we love him? Because he is a representative of our state, and uh, we we, by expressing love, we actually do a great job for our country. And it was this courtly love that raised his work to from a traditional love story. Elizabeth was handsome, clever, and 25. Now, she was handsome, she was clever, she was, I don't know, maybe beautiful, and she was 25 years of age when when she started when she started her kingship, queenship, actually. But as she was a sovereign and the monarch, uh, king is a better word for her. The queen figure as the cruel beloved, the poet hero was the knight errant serving an imperial and imperious mistress. Now, this queen was so selfish in the love of her country that uh, she uh, has been uh, giving a tough job to his uh, poet hero, uh, who was serving an imperial and imperious mistress, who send him to dangerous places where strange sort of monsters are there. Once she tried to stop him, but uh, our hero was also a brave person, a daredevil, and he entered the place, and there was a lady who was not a lady; she was a monster actually. The monster. He killed that monster. There was a great fight between the two, but that's not relevant. What I mean to say is that Elizabeth uh, was just uh, giving his beloved, giving his lover a lot of messy jobs, uh, a lot of hard work. He has to uh, uh, be he has to give a lot. He works very hard for the queen. Now, Edmund Spencer, again, this ploti- uh, this political recreation of courtly love also informs Spencer about the difficulty of his errands. There is adoption of chivalrous romance, and there was this Puritan. Spencer wanted to overgo these poems to build a national myth. Actually, he also wanted that it should not be remembered like a love story. Uh, he wanted to uh, make a poem that should be considered like a national myth. Now we have William Shakespeare, one of the greatest writers, playwright, dramatist, and uh, poet. He was he got his education from Stratford. In At Stratford, his school was based on Latin grammar, rhetoric, and composition. To speak English was forbidden in the upper forms. English was not spoken there. He became a schoolmaster. He was a partner in leading companies of actors. Shakespeare had been immortal. His stance is still live because he was a playwright. And not only because he was a playwright, he was an able writer also. William Shakespeare joined theatre. He entered its great period, a time of general intellectual ferment, cultural confidence, linguistic exuberance. He created classical European texts into translation. His ideas were shaped by Christian and human ideals. And he was abundant in the human ideals. Uh, when I was in class 7th, I read actually all the plays were converted into short stories, and I read those short stories. I read his drama Othello, the story of it, not the whole drama, because I was in class 7th. So Shakespeare stories were contained in a book. There was Timon, there was Julius Caesar, there was this Antonio Cleopatra, and other stories. Uh, One of his sentences that touched my, that made me emotional was from Timon when he died. He said that don't stop at my grave and curse me if you wish, but don't stop to cry for me. He actually hated humanity for the uh, ills that were uh, uh, forged because of them, because of his friends who misbehaved when we became poor. His ideas were shaped by Christian and human ideals. Human ideals were discussed. Uh, 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 like in Othello, this person who became very doubtful about his wife, and in his doubt, he killed her. I'm talking about Othello, actually. Othello uh, Othello actually translated that how uh, a husband in doubt can kill his innocent wife just for nothing. Actually, he tried to show that such sort of people are also present in the society. Such sort of people are also present in the society who, out of just a whim or a sudden wish or a sudden disbelief, uh, uh, in which this sort of a person is consumed, and then he kills a human being of whom he had no right. Uh, it has always uh, discussed humans. For me, he was like a scientist who experimented on human emotions. Ben Jonson wrote verses and quote marks. He added a classical idea of literature, and showed and expressed sanity, precision, and possessed integrity. Now, all these qualities are very important for writing a classical literature. You should be uh, okay. You should be sane. Actually, how can a mentally ill person write a good uh, piece of literature, especially classical idea of literature? Then it should be precise, uh, because precision matters. Because if you write a lot of things, and if you unnecessarily make it extra ordinary, to make it extraordinary, you prolong the story and you drag it just to make it longer, and then the reader must get mad in it. So precision is very important, and then integrity is something which is related with real manhood and real persons who does not uh, go who does not run away from his problems and do the right thing. Now, satire was the motive of Johnson's comedy. Now, satire is different from sarcasm, as Adnan corrected me once, and you also heard that, Madam Amna. Madam, sorry, I took, I asked, I um, uh, uh, I only did it in mistake. I pronounced your name. For that, I'm sorry, ma'am. Comedy of humor. The characters are caricatured, ruled by a single idea. Okay, I was discussing the integrity. Now, satire was a motive of Johnson's comedy. Now, satire is not sarcasm. Satire, uh, in satire, you criticize people. You tend to get the mistakes out of a person, maybe a man or a woman, just to make him correct. It is not it is not done for the for something bad for the person. It is done with a good perspective, just to correct others. So he used satire in his comedies because he wanted to uh, tell the humanity the right and uh, uh, the correct ideals and uh, uh, the, the the correct way of life. Now, in Johnson's grotesque world, avarice is the chief vice ahead of pride, lust, and gluttony. His ideas remained of integrity, artistic, intellectual, and moral. Uh, you need to be a good artist if you write if you want to write uh, a literature which is classical and which is uh, which penetrates in your heart. You should be an artist. And then intelligence is also something which is important. Morals are important because uh, these writers, dramatists, these poets uh, rectify humans in doing things, discuss the society, and if they are not themselves moral, then how can they teach humanity the real crux of life? Johnson gave his abundant spirits a classical focus. Now he was full of good spirits, abundant of uh, good uh, knowledge that he passed on and propagated. Thank you, madam. I am done here. Uh, if there are any mistakes, please uh, be so kind to forgive me for that. Thank you, madam. Uh, uh, this is Usman Najim signing off.